We have made it to the final portion of the offseason here in the Portland Trailblazers MyNBA franchise. And that's everything after the draft leading up to the season, most notably free agency. So, of course, last episode was the 2026 NBA draft. And in case you missed that episode, I recommend you check out the series playlist where you can find any episode of the series that you may have missed. It was certainly an interesting one. A lot of movement around the league, and that started with a handful of big-time trades before and during the draft. Notably, Anthony Davis is a Hornet, Julius Randle to the Warriors, Jalen Brunson to the Wizards. That was a massive surprise. And then the Mavericks getting Miles Turner. As for the draft itself, Dante Del Toro, the Italian stallion, unsurprisingly goes number 1. Chance Corradino at number 2 to Atlanta was a little surprising, while the Pelicans take a shot on Jalen Richmond, who's coming off a torn ACL during his freshman year at Duke. As for us, the draft board really didn't turn out well. We targeted guys like Jalen Thamba, Sua Tolonyi. We tried to trade up for Jonathan Wiggum. Then it was Cam Carlisle. Then Demetrius Bailiff. None of them fell to our pick. And our ultimate backup plan of trading for Miles Turner fell through, since he was traded earlier on draft night to the Mavericks. So instead, we stuck at pick 28, drafting Ashton Wisham, a raw but physically talented 7'3" center out of St. Louis. I like his defensive upside. He's got a 7'11" wingspan, and I think he's got a pretty high ceiling. In the second round, we targeted Emmanuel Salvador, and he went one pick before us to the Orlando Magic. I should have seen it coming. He's the prototypical Magic guard in the sense that he's big, he's a good playmaker, and he can guard multiple positions. We ended up drafting Armani Robinson out of Ohio State, a talented forward who's got some good physical ability, he's got some defensive versatility, and he's a pretty solid scorer across the board. And I think he's got a better chance of really getting minutes for this team year one over Ashton Wisham. So this is what the roster looks like going into free agency, and we've got a handful of big decisions to make today because a large chunk of our core is not under contract for this upcoming season. And while we're in a good spot financially, we're going to have a lot of guys to pay within the next coming years. Ochai Agbaji, DeAndre Ayton, Shaedon Sharpe, and Anthony Simons are all free agents. Simons and Ayton are both unrestricted. Lesser guys such as Prince Bengaro, Nikola Jovic, and Ryan Rupert are also free agents as well, but obviously that big four are really going to be the keys. 4 guys who were super key for us the entire year, and 2 of them, again, Ayton and Simons, are unrestricted. They can sign anywhere they wish. So before we get to free agency, we've still got team and player options along with qualifying offers. We have team options for Scoot, Springer, and Logan. All no-brainers. We're going to accept them. The 3 notable player options in the league belong to Luka, Giannis, and Kyrie Irving. Unsurprisingly, all 3 players decline. I think Giannis will re-up with the Spurs, being that they just won the title. But Luka and Kyrie could be interesting. The Mavericks have been kind of disappointing with their current core, so I could see those 2 potentially looking to find a new home. Now we will get to the qualifying offer stage. We've got 5 players we can give it to, and we're only going to give it to 3. Sharpe and Agbaji, obviously, along with Fritz Bengaro. We're going to let go of Nikola Jovic and Ryan Rupert. I just don't really think there's a spot for either of those guys on the roster, and I think we would be doing them a disservice by having them sit on the bench all year again. That'll bring us into free agency, and this is a loaded class. We talked about Luka, Giannis, and Kyrie already. We've got a few other really good unrestricted guys such as Durant, Curry, Fox, Mikal Bridges, even Anthony Simons as well. So I think for us it's pretty simple. We've got to worry about our guys. We don't have the money to go out and chase a big star, and I don't know if any of these top guys are really looking to go to Portland. So I think we've got to clean our laundry right now, and that starts with Shaedon Sharpe, no-brainer. Give him a blank check for 5 years and let him write in the $sign. I think it gets a little bit more interesting with the other 3, Simons, Ayton, and Agbaji, because all 3 of them want a lot of money. Simons wants around $31 a year, Ayton wants around $29, and Ochai wants around $25. Keep in mind, these guys are all role players. None of these 3 guys are going to be top 2 scoring options on a championship caliber team, and we would be paying them a lot of money. But I think we would be foolish to let a majority of these players go. With how money works in the NBA, I feel like we have to bring these guys on bird rights back. Worst comes to worst, they can always be tradable contracts for us down the line. And in particular, I think the two guys we need to prioritize are Ochai Agbaji and Anthony Simons. I think both of them are a little bit better than Ayton. I think they're a little bit more important to the team than Ayton. And we're going to try to lowball them a little bit since neither of them have a huge market yet, hoping that they take a hometown discount. Unfortunately, after simming the first stage, Shaedon Sharpe accepts a deal from Toronto. He is only going to get 4 years, but he's going to get more money per season, while both Agbaji and Simons accept their deals. Obviously, we're going to match the contract for Shaedon Sharpe. Total no-brainer there. And we bring our three guys back. Sharpe, Agbaji, Simons, all return on multi-year extensions. That brings us to DeAndre Ayton, where things get a little bit weird. The Warriors are offering him a 4-year deal for around $140 million. So clearly, it looks like that'll be the market for him. And there's already a handful of suitors, Golden State in particular. And I don't think I'm willing to pay him that. Ayton's been really solid over the last couple of years. This year in particular, he was super efficient on offense. He had a pretty strong playoff run, that first game in particular against Minnesota. But especially in the regular season at times defensively, I feel like there was just some inconsistency with him. And I think if we upgrade at the center position, we can beat anybody in this league. I don't think we can upgrade in free agency, though. Sure, we can sign Robert Williams or Rudy Gobert for a lot cheaper, but I think it would make more sense for us to take a splash into the trade market. I think this team is close to competing for a title, and we're missing that one piece. I want a big who can give us some solid scoring ability on offense, but most importantly, plays really strong defense. I'm going to branch it out to power forwards as well, but we need somebody who can be a true starting five, and I think Karl-Anthony Towns very well could be that guy. Towns isn't the same player he once was, but he's one of the most gifted scoring big men really of the last 20-plus years, especially in terms of the outside shot. He's not a particularly great defender, though. That's the issue with Cat, but offensively, he is special. Minnesota does not seem like they want to trade for him, but I think given the right offer, we could make it work. Another guy I would want to look at is Kristaps Porzingis in Boston. Again, not the same guy he once was, but Boston's been kind of disappointing in this series, and I could see them wanting to shake up their core a little bit. Porzingis really isn't that much worse offensively compared to Cat, and he's a lot better defensively. It helps that he's 7'3" and could guard Victor Wembanyama in a playoff series. The Celtics are asking for way too much in all of these trades. We're not trading away Scoot. We're not trading away Springer. We're not trading away Griffin. Going back to Miles Turner, I think he would also be a perfect fit, but being that the Mavericks just traded for him, I don't think that's going to work. And as I mentioned a minute ago, the options in free agency don't really entice me. So I want to go back to this idea of getting Kristaps Porzingis. I want to see if we can get him without trading Scoot, Springer, or Griffin. I think everybody else is on the table, and I'm willing to give up some draft picks as well. We do have 7 first-rounders in the next 5 years. So given the opportunity, I am willing to part with some for a guy like Porzingis. Our initial offer here is Isaiah Stewart, Dante Branch, and 2 future first-rounders, one from the Heat in 2028, one from the Pistons in 2029. They say no. They offer us a counter, so clearly they're interested here in potentially working with us. It's 2 first-rounders for Jalen Noel. The picks aren't that valuable, but I'm not trading 4 first-rounders for Kristaps Porzingis. I'm going to try to turn them into 2 seconds, take Noel out of the deal, and Boston doesn't really seem to like it. I decided to add Kevon Looney, giving away both of our backup bigs, and they say no, but they offer us a pretty reasonable counter. A first-rounder in 2030 in exchange for Malachi Suleiman, a young guard they drafted in the first round out of Duke last year. Former college teammate of Dante Branch, ironically. The two of them won a national championship with Duke as freshmen. My thought process here is I would rather Branch over Suleiman. Since they had the same star value, maybe we can do the trade without either one of them, but we would probably have to include another first-rounder for Noel, and I don't think it's going to work. I think the only way we can make this happen is with the Dante Branch, Malachi Suleiman swap. And I don't want to trade away Dante Branch. I really like him. I feel like he really came along last year after starting off slowly. But Dante Branch can't be the guy who stops us from getting Kristaps Porzingis. This is a lot to give up. Isaiah Stewart, Dante Branch, Kevon Looney, and 3 ones. But I think it's worth it for a guy like Porzingis and Malachi Suleiman as well. Luckily for Branch, I think there's a clear route for playing time. Boston doesn't have a ton of depth on the wings. I think this trade means they're going to have Tatum at the 4, Brown at the 3, Derek White at the 2. So they really lack depth on the perimeter with Derek White becoming a full-time starter now. I think Dante Branch plays a lot for them. And ultimately, Boston will accept the deal. I know you guys wanted to see us make a splash, especially in terms of adding some more size. And I think adding Kristaps Porzingis to this team does exactly that. I think he's going to be the missing piece. He's not a true center per se throughout his career, but at 7'3" with his defense, I think he'll be able to play the 5. And I really like his offensive flexibility. It's another guy who can space the floor and score inside. He's under contract for 4 years, so he's going to be around for a little while. I don't think the annual value is really that bad. Compare it to like Karl Anthony Towns, who's only under contract for 2 years, but he's making a lot more money over those 2 seasons than Kristaps is over any of these 4. And along with Porzingis, I'm excited about adding Malachi Suleiman. He's only 20 years old, not a great scorer, but he's a phenomenal playmaker and an improving defender as well. Now, we did have to give up a lot to make this work. Isaiah Stewart and Kevon Looney likely will battle it out to be the starting 5 in Boston. Both of them gave us some really solid depth this year. And then Dante Branch, I really didn't want to trade him away. I think he's going to really flourish in Boston with a prominent role. The Celtics also added 3 first-round picks, 1 from us in 2030, 1 from the Pistons in 2029, 1 from the Heat in 2028. I think that Miami pick might be our most valuable draft pick, or I guess it's not ours anymore. But that's because Jimmy Butler and Damian Lillard both only have 1 year left. If both of those guys leave next year, the Miami Heat could struggle, although they do have Myron Sheridan, who would be entering his 3rd season. So if he takes that 3rd-year leap, maybe that won't be the case. But now that's not our problem to worry about, being that we don't have their draft pick in 2028. With trading away both Looney and Isaiah Stewart, we're going to need a new backup 5, and I'm not convinced that Ashton Wisham is going to be able to do it right away. Of the options in free agency, at least among the cheap options, I think Derek Lively would really make a ton of sense. He's a young guy, only 22 years old. He's not asking for that much money, and he's a phenomenal defensive player, which is really exactly what I would be looking for off the bench. As we get through Phase 2, we will officially renounce DeAndre Ayton's rights. He is gone. Unfortunately, Derek Lively will not sign with us. He agrees to a deal with the Philadelphia 76ers. He's a Philly guy from the area, so I can't blame him for wanting to go home. But that means now we're going to need to get somebody else. Of the options here, I think Jalen Williams could be a good pick. He's not a great finisher inside, but he's a great three-point shooter, and he's a good enough defensive player. Certainly not as good as Lively, but I think he's a solid enough option. He will accept our deal, but we're not going to have enough money to sign him. The good news is we are going to have enough money to still sign Sharp, Abaji, and Simon. So those 3 guys are now officially back for good, pen to paper, and we now have those guys all on the roster with Porzingis. We still need a backup 5, though, because, again, I'm still not sold that Ashton Wisham's going to be able to do it as a rookie. I don't really love the options here. I went through looking at possible trades. There aren't really many better options. So we're going to have to suck it up and deal with a not as good choice. I looked at the power forwards, and I actually think Santi Aldama would really work. He's a good enough offensive player. He's not a complete liability on defense. He's bounced around over the last few years with Memphis, Brooklyn, and Sacramento. And I think he'd be a good backup 5 for us. He is a 7-footer as he accepts our 1-year deal. I'd like to bring back Fritz Bengaro. He wants a lot of money, though, so we're just going to wait to the end of the offseason where he accepts the qualifying because no team in their right mind is going to pay him that. So now we're at the end of free agency. Still some notable players here, including Mikal Bridges. He'll likely go back to Oklahoma City. Between Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith, both of whom finished out last year with the Jazz, at least one of them will not go back to Utah because the Jazz did sign a pretty prominent front court player. And then there are a lot of other really good players here still available as well. Benedict Mathurin, Keegan Murray, amongst others. So let's take a look around the league at some of the big moves The team I was most fascinated by was Dallas because they've been kind of stagnant. I thought Luka and Kyrie would want out, but both of them accepted extensions right at the start of free agency, so they are back, reuniting with Pascal Siakam, joining Miles Turner, and they've got some solid role players, including adding Cam Reddish. The other big-time free agent was Giannis. I figured he would re-sign with the Spurs, having just won a championship there. However, that's not the case, and Giannis's reasoning for leaving is that he wanted Victor Wembanyama to have the opportunity to have his own team. Wemby was the top option all year. He tore his meniscus in the conference finals, and Giannis was able to keep the ship afloat and lead them to the title. The funny part, though, is where Giannis ended up signing. He is an absolute troll. Giannis signed with the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis's master plan was to request a trade from Milwaukee, go to a new team, win a championship, which he did with the Spurs, and then go back to the Bucks once they had enough assets to potentially get a second star. Masterclass. And speaking of trolls, guess where DeAndre Ayton signed? The Suns. They had a very messy divorce, but DeAndre Ayton is back, and I unironically think for where their roster is right now, he's not the worst fit, especially with the coaching terrorist, Monty Williams, not in Phoenix anymore. Along with Giannis and Ayton, we had a number of other players find new homes. The Suns and Warriors re-upped Durant and Steph. However, Jaren Jackson is on the move to the Jazz. That's a surprise, but I will say Utah's got a really bright future with all the young players they've gotten, all those picks. Bam Adebayo signs with the Lakers. I really like this deal for LA. You're getting yourselves another real star player, but he won't take any of the offensive attention off of Dante Del Toro, and he'll still be able to be the franchise player because Bam Adebayo is like the best possible role player for a young guy like Del Toro who's leading his own franchise that you could ask for. De'Aaron Fox resigns in New Orleans for 4 years. The Pelicans have an unbelievable future themselves. Austin Reeves to Toronto, Devin Vassell to the Lakers, and then a bunch of other role players finding new teams as well. Fritz Bengaro will accept the qualifying offer. He is back. And now it's time for my favorite stage of the offseason, player progression. And there's a whole lot of green on this screen. I will say not really much of a boost for Sharp or Scoot. Shaden only goes up 1. He's a 91. Scoot Henderson's inside scoring and athleticism goes down. I think the injuries are really catching up to him. He's played at least 65 games every year, but he's had a bunch of nagging injuries already in his career. Darius Springer goes up 5. He's now an 85, and part of that is from winning the stud of the year, but still some big boost there. B, 3-point shooting. B plus inside scoring. Abaji goes up 2. He's an 84. Khalil Griffin goes up 4. He's an 80. Khalil Griffin has one of the highest ceilings on this roster. For him to be this good this early is super impressive. I think he's going to have some more versatility down low with his B inside defense. Zay Logan goes up 2. Malachi Suleiman goes up 3. Fritz Bengaro goes up quite a bit as well. He'll have a real opportunity to compete with Santi Aldama for playing time as the backup 5. On paper, this roster looks amazing. We've got a really good core 7 and then some talented role players as well. We do have one trade that I want to go over around the league, and that involves the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis did not sign here to have James Wiseman be the second best player. They're looking for another star. They've got a handful of draft picks. They've got a handful of young players. So they will be going out and getting RJ Barrett from the Knicks. Is Barrett the ideal second star? No, probably not. But there weren't really many other great options. The Knicks are obviously selling the farm. They traded away Randall. They traded away Brunson. They'll be getting back Ja'Kai Ellington, who was a lottery pick last year, along with Jacques Moreau, a first-rounder, and 2 seconds. So Giannis has his new left-hand man in the case of RJ Barrett. Let's bring ourselves into the Summer League now. Both Khalil Griffin and Darius Springer are going to play, along with obviously all the other youngsters such as Suleiman, Logan, and the rookies. This is what the lineup will look like. I'm really curious to see how Griffin and Springer look like leading their own team, and I'm excited to see some of these other young guys fighting for rotation minutes as well. The team ended up doing pretty good. We went 2-1. Khalil Griffin and Darius Springer were both awesome. They averaged around 20 and 10 apiece, each on really good shooting. Ashton Wisham performed well, 13 and 6, 2 blocks a game. Pretty good efficiency himself. Fritz Bengaro only played one game, but he was good in that one game. And then Malachi Suleiman and Zay Logan were both pretty good as well. We win our first game against the Rockets. Bryce McGowan, Ashton Wisham, and Armani Robinson with 16 each. We need our 2 stars to shoot the ball more, though. It's a playoff game. Now we've got Toronto in the second round, and we beat them as well. Springer leads the way with 24. Good games from Logan and Wisham. Thatchen Kodali, one of the guys the game signed for us, with 12 and 8. That brings us to the quarterfinals. We beat Charlotte, despite 25 from Cale Foster. Zay Logan leads the way with 22, Griffin with a double-double, and Ashton Wisham continues to play really well. Now we've got the Spurs in the semis, and we're moving on to the championship against Brooklyn. We get our revenge over the Spurs for them sweeping us in the playoffs last year. Zay Logan again leads the way, 21 and 12. Rough game for Springer, but it didn't matter. The Spurs had 46 points through the first 3 quarters. Our defense was clamps on them. This Nets team is pretty good. They're led by Dante Kingsley, Prana Piloris, Florian Mack, Jalen Thamba, and William Abimbola. That's a good 5, and they've got a good group of role players with Andre Jackson, EJ Liddell, and Victor Ababoye. This game ended up being really close, as you can see. With just 2 minutes to go, we're tied at 97. We're going to hop in and try to win this. So the Blazers are now up by 2 after a pair of 3 throws from Fritz Bengaro, as Piloris is called for an illegal screen. Costly play there by Brooklyn. Also, our first look at the new Blazer jerseys in-game. Griffin gets it to the rookie, Ashton Wisham, who's in for the layup. Good pass, good finish by the big man, and it's a 4-point game. Kingsley drives inside. He misses it. Suleiman with the rebound. He leads the Blazers with 20. Out to Griffin. Out to Wisham. Another bucket for the rookie, Ashton Wisham. He's got 12. 6-point game. Not looking good for Brooklyn. Piloris is blocked at the rim. It's Wisham who makes the play, but Springer loses it. Florian Mack steals it for the Nets. That could have iced the game off of the block by the rookie. That's why the Blazers are so excited about Wisham's upside. 7'3" with a 7'10" wingspan. You can't teach the measurables. 7 to go on the shot clock. Kingsley guarded by Griffin. Good ball movement by the Nets. Kingsley inside. No good. Griffin with the stop. Wisham with the rebound. He's fouled. He would make 1. Off the inbound, Dante Kingsley for 3. It's good. Kingsley coming off a great rookie season after being drafted in the top 10 last year out of Michigan with a big 3 for the Nets. Griffin's fouled. He would make 1. Brooklyn's got it back. Kingsley again hits another one. Dante Kingsley brings it within 2 as Khalil Griffin is once again fouled. He'll go back to the line. Only 7 points today for Griffin. He's only made 1 field goal in this game as he drills the first one. Second one is no good. And the Nets can potentially tie it with a 3. 12 seconds to go. Shot clock unplugged. It's Piloris guarded by Wisham with the spin move. Out to Kingsley. He gets it to Jalen Thamba. Misses the 3 for the tie. Wisham with the rebound. He'll go to the line to shoot 2 and end it. He would make them both. Full court heave is no good. And the Blazers have won the championship. The Summer League championship, but still a championship. It's good to see the young guys winning these important games. I wish that Springer and Griffin would have played a little bit better in the playoff games, but we won the whole thing. I can't really complain. Malachi Suleiman leads the way scoring-wise, 20 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 blocks. Ashton Wisham with another good game and some big 3 throws late. Solid games out of Springer, Kodali, Bengaro, and Logan. Griffin was inefficient, but we didn't need him to make a bunch of big shots. He was good as a passer with 6 assists. As for the Nets, Dante Kingsley did all he could, leading the way with 37 points. Kingsley also went up by 5 ratings in player progression. Him and Springer going up by 5 is the most of any player this year, so both of those guys should certainly take leaps for their teams. Springer and Griffin's numbers go down counting in the playoff games, but everybody else's numbers kind of go up. Both of them deferred a little bit on offense to let the other guys make some plays. The All-Star City will be Houston this year, As for the draft class, you guys know the drill. If you want to make players for the draft class this year, make sure to go join my Discord server. Link is in the description. And there we go. We've made it to the new season. We only had 13 players on the roster, so we're going to fill it out. Starting with Victor Oladipo. I think he's a good veteran. It's good to have some grown-ups in the room. Jacoby Walker, a young forward out of Arizona, I think has got some intriguing two-way versatility. We're going to sign him. And then Tony Braxton, a young guard out of, I believe, Texas. We're going to sign him as our two-way player. Our opening game this year is against the Bulls, led by well-known child respecter Josh Giddey. We then have the Thunder as our home opener. This is what the rotation is going to look like to start the year. Scoot, Sharp, Abaji, Springer, and Porzingis. I think the real question with the lineup is who's going to be the fifth starter between Abaji and Griffin. The real question is, will Griffin be good enough this year to overtake Ochai Abaji? I think it's going to happen at some point during Griffin's rookie contract, but will it happen this season? Obviously, we know we've got our core seven, but who's going to get the other minutes? To start the year, it'll be Suleiman, Logan, and Aldama, but we're going to give some of these other young guys, especially the bigs, some looks. Fritz Bengaro showed some good flashes last year. Ashton Wisham really impressed me in the Summer League, and I like Armani Robinson as well. So all of these young bigs are going to get their opportunity to play as well. Hope everybody enjoyed the episode. Next time around, we're going to kick off the season. This was a really long offseason dating back to the rebrand, so it's going to be good to be back in basketball in season form, if you will. And hopefully this team has what it takes to potentially start what would be a championship season. I think on paper, this team can win it all. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let me know what you thought of our offseason down below in the comments. Peace out.